have to mention when the weather is good, because it affects our mood. It affects the whole the things around us as well. Having said that, we are extremely happy that our kids, they do their prep sessions so diligently on our Let Us Talk It platform, and the topics that they come up with, that's what amazes me. We talk among each other, but the topic entirely, it shows how much the environment around them affects them, and then they come up with topics like today's topic, infamous rulers. Cannot be a better timing than this. And we can have a great session, interactive session. If any one of you who have joined the YouTube or Facebook links, if you can join the Zoom link and have the interaction going on, we would be in. I mean, the kids will be really happy, and you will be hearing names of rulers, pretty famous for their infamous work, but they had their ideas, their dedication towards what they thought was right. And we cannot agree more to this quote, which says, bad leaders care about who is right, good leaders care about what is right. So now is the time when we can discuss more on this. And I always say, let your views come out, whatever you feel. We'll have a strong interaction session today. I'm thinking if others can join, it will be much interactive. So yes, we are here today with our team, and for the first time we'll have Lemuel as our co-moderator. He just joined a couple of weeks back, and he feels pretty confident to be the moderator. And as always, our veteran in this, Vivan and Virat. So Virat will be helping him to co-moderate. All the best, Lemuel. Over to you.
Hello, my name is Lemuel, and this is my first time moderating one of the webinars. So today's topic is infamous rulers. Thank you for the introduction, Juhulan. So I think we can go on.
You got it right, Lemuel.
I think we can go on to the next slide. So the table of contents. First, we will have an introduction, and you guys will meet the panelists. Then we're going to talk about each of our rulers. And then after that, in the end, we're going to have a Q&A interaction where you guys who are watching can ask questions, and we will answer them. Next. Meet the rulers. I mean, panelists. Okay, first is Vavan.
Hello everyone, my name is Vavan, and I'm going to talk about two fairly modern rulers. For many, the 1960s and the 1930s were already ancient history. But do not fear, they're so modern that in two lifetimes or in one lifetime, somebody would have experienced these events.
Next is Bharat.
Well, to say rulers, I don't think any of them are 1 foot high. And to say panelists, I would say that's a quite right description. Now, I'm choosing Ivan the Terrible, and that's definitely not a picture of me. That's a picture of my person that I'm choosing, Ivan the Terrible. I guess the name really got the punch.
Okay, next.
Hi, my name is Veda, and I will be talking about Caligula. He ruled Rome in the early ages of 37 to 41.
Veda, can I request you to have some light on your face so that we can just turn the laptop or camera? Thank you.
Next is Vish.
Hi everyone, my name is Vish, and I'll be talking about Mao Zedong, a Chinese ruler who's known for the what's it called? Oh, well, the Red Terror.
And finally, it's me. I will be talking about Nero, who killed many people, which I will not name because it is kind of gruesome. Hopefully you enjoy it.
Dave is not here today, but now we have a quote from Albert Einstein.
The world will not be destroyed by who do evil, but by the ones that watch without doing anything.
Okay. Now we have our rulers.
Hi, today I will be talking about Caligula, the infamous Roman ruler. Caligula, next slide. Caligula's real name is Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus. He was born in 12 AD. The name Caligula translated to a Latin nickname known as Little Boots because his mother used to dress him up when he was very young. In 37 AD, when Caligula stepped into power, it was a time of celebration. Caligula's predecessor, Tiberius, was enormously unpopular. People believed that he had Caligula's father, Germanicus, poisoned to death. He also had his mother's and brothers forcing suicide. At any rate, Caligula was only spared because of his very young age at the time. In his early life, there had been rumors that Caligula had been involved in incestuous behavior with his sister Drusilla. Drusilla died in the age of 20. Caligula was devastated and forced his people to engage in public grieving for 2 months. Caligula was into some very disturbing acts, to say the least. Most of them were at the expense of others. One of the cruel acts is he would use other men's wives for his own amusement and pleasure. He loved to publicly embarrass the husbands of the wives, so he criticized their performances or techniques. There were other times where Caligula would attend a wedding just to stop the marriage so he could have his way with the bride. After he would ditch her, saying that she couldn't marry anyone. In 39 AD, Caligula fell in love with a woman named Malonia Caesonia. Aside from Caligula was very cruel when it came to torturing and mass killings. Caligula forced families to watch their kids get tortured and forced the victims' relatives to forcefully smile and cheer while their families were brutally getting tortured. He held parties and gatherings of joyous nature to watch people be brutally killed. And he invited the grieving loved ones to join in on the festivities, forced to act like they were having a good time. Caligula didn't just have people executed quick and simple like you might think. Caligula wanted his victims to feel their pain. The killing started off with cuts and abrasions, then steadily getting more brutal, increasing the methods of torture, keeping victims alive to experience the pain as long as possible. It was disturbingly fun for him. On one occasion, his victim shouted to proclaim his innocence before being tortured, in which case Caligula called him back, not to pardon him, but to have his tongue cut off so he couldn't shout his innocence again. The poor man was thrown back into the wolves to proceed with the harsh torture. Caligula was a man with a serious sadistic serial killer mentality. Caligula was a man who believed himself to be a living god. Most emperors were considered gods after death, but Caligula didn't want to wait for death. He claimed to seek advice from the gods. He also claimed to party regularly with the gods. Caligula was also a maniacal narcissist. He had statues built of himself in every temple in the empire. Since Caligula was only 28 years old, people believed that his tyranny was going to last for a very long time. Conspiracy of the people grew against him, and in 41 AD, it was proven once and for all that he was not a god but a mere mortal. This happened when a group of guardsmen attacked him after a sporting event. The assassination took place in Palatine Hill in Rome, Italy. He was left with 30 stab wounds in his body, and his body was dumped in a shallow grave. Sadly, his wife and daughter were also murdered. His statues were taken down in an attempt to purge the terrible memory of Caligula. Caligula was indeed almost wiped from history. The reason he's still remembered today is because his actions and behavior was so hard to forget, despite the actions to do so. Even though they killed Caligula, they weren't ready to kill the monarchy system. The Senate had an opportunity to seize power and change everything, but instead they placed Caligula's uncle Claudius in charge. The failure to end the emperor system would later result in another Caligula-type leader, with the infamous ruler Nero. Even though Caligula ruled Rome for slightly less than 4 years, his time ruling was so impactful that his name continues to live on in infamy 2,000 years later. Next slide. Oh, it's done.
Thank you, Veda. That was an amazing presentation. I especially liked how you honed in on each event of his life and made sure to explain them in great detail. Now we have Nero.
Yes, Nero. Veda talked about Nero being Caligula's cousin, and that is true. And yes, he is a tyrant. Nero was born near Rome on the 15th of December, 37 AD. He was known as a child Diminutus. Though his mother, Agrippina, he was only surviving direct male descendant of the Emperor Augustus. In 49 AD, Agrippina married her uncle, the Emperor Claudius, and began to promote her own son to claim the succession. At the expense of Claudius' own son, Britannicus, he persuaded Claudius to adopt Dominatus, who now is named Nero. Most of his killings were due to persecution to the Christians. That was because the Christians didn't believe in any of the Roman gods. They also never praised them and worshiped to them. Christians are monotheists, though the Romans are polytheists. Polytheist means that they believe in multiple gods. The Great Fire of Rome. Nero is blamed for the Great Fire of Rome because he tried to build land. Setting some trees on fire was not the smartest idea to clear a piece of land. That led to millions of people dying, though that is only just a myth. But that really seems like what Nero would do. Next. Even more evil. Nero killed his mom, dad, and even siblings. You thought he was a good person to his mom? No. Even though she bore him, he tried to kill her and poisoned her some time later. He also killed his dad and even his loved ones by kicking their womb, trying to kill the offspring, because he wanted to be a dictator forever. Oh, siblings? His actions even killed more people than Caligula's. Not by torture, but by killing people by throwing them into hot boiling oils. He also He also married someone and divorced her, because she couldn't give a son.
Thank you, Lemuel, for the presentation. I liked the how you explained the relationships between each person and how they affected the events. Now we have Mao Zedong with Wish. We're getting more modern here.
Hello. Like I said, I'll be talking about Mao Zedong, but unlike the others, he isn't as, let's say, killer. More like Martin Luther King with a little bit of killer. Next slide. Is Mao Zedong, also known as Chairman Mao, was a Chinese communist revolutionary who was the founding father of the People's Republic of China, PRC, which he ruled as the chairman of Chinese Communist Party from the establishment of the PRC in 1949 until his death in 1976. Ideologically, a Marxist-Leninist, his theories, military strategy, and political policies are collectively known as Maoism. What did he do? Or, you went too far. Mao was the son of a prosperous peasant in Shenyang, Hunan. He supported Chinese nationalism and had an anti-imperialist outlook early in his life, and was particularly influenced by the events of the Xinhai Revolution of 1911 and May 4th movement of 1919. He later adopted Marxism Leninism while working at Peking University as a librarian, and became a founding member of the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, leading the Autumn Harvest Uprising in 1927 during the Chinese Civil War between Kuomintang's KMT and the CCP. Mao helped to found Chinese Workers and Peasants' Red Army, led the Jiangxi Soviet radical land policies, and ultimately became the head of the CCP during the Long March. Although the CCP temporarily allied with KMT under the Second United Front during the Second Sino-Japanese War, which was 1937 to 1945, China's civil war resumed after Japan's surrender, and Mao's forces defeated the nationalist government, which withdrew to Taiwan in 1949. Next slide. You may have already heard about his reign, but here's some info if you didn't. He reigned from 1943 to 1976. And there's Mao's reign of terror, which honestly isn't as terrifying as the other two, Nero and Caligula. This image over here is of the Red Army. So here's some. As the communists swept over China's mainland in 1949, Mao Zedong's regime promised moderation, tolerance, and forgiveness. Last week, tolerance was lost in the mounting clamor of a great red terror. Mao Zedong's regime announced the execution of 120 counter-revolutionaries at Kenton 56, at Swatow 89, at Hankow 28, at Quedlin, and scenes reminiscent of the Tumbril and Guillotine days of the French Revolution. The communists turned the spectacle of death into public carnivals with music and dances. Okay, now I'd say that is a bit terrifying. China's Red Press described the liquidation of one batch numbering 700. Qin Feng had wrecked locomotive boilers in Peking's railroad shop. Li Qing had ruined wind gauges, wind pumps, and water pumps. Tang Hu Cheng had inspired workers to slow down. Qin Han Kui had fabricated 90 false rumors against the government. On their way to execution, the victims were paraded slowly to Peking streets, to the scene of their crimes, where the debt was meted out. And just to remind you, this is all of the Red Army, communist group, technically. Thousands of citizens went to the execution grounds to see executions reported of the Red's New China news agency. All were highly indignant and cursed these counter-revolutionaries. Peking's People's Daily added that the crowd gritted their teeth in hatred. Cheers and applause were heard as these people were killed. A mob surrounding a van transporting one group of prisoners and would have torn them to pieces had not a well-armed guard intervened. After executions, onlookers kicked the bodies and beat them with sticks. That's violent. The People's Daily quoted from the approving comments of the people: a shoemaker, shooting is too lenient. A peasant, too bad I arrived late. I would have killed to see the special agent die. A dozen textile workers vowed that they were so inspired by the executions that they would now step up with their productions. A Buddhist priest, Chu San, a member of Peking Municipal, the MCC, was quoted saying, "To execute these counter-revolutionaries is not contradicted Buddhist command to avoid killing by executing a very small number of reactionaries. The majority of the people will be saved. The criminals will be deterred from committing crimes." That is good. And that is pretty much on the Red Terror and the Red Army. That's all from me on Mao Zedong. I'm done.
Okay. So, we have a quote. "I have existed from the morning of the world, and I shall exist until the last star falls from night. Although I have taken the form of Gaius Caligula, I am all men as I am no man, and therefore I am a god." Caligula.
Sorry, I accidentally put that slide in the wrong spot.
I could tell. So now we have Ivan the Terrible with my presentation. And no, this is not the original image, as you can tell. I just did this for fun. Now, what's so terrible about this guy? I mean, he's a ruler and he's not 1 foot tall, so what made him so terrible? Well, with all the Russian Tsars and Tsarinas and all the ruthless and power-hungry rulers that were there for Russia, but only this Ivan IV Vasilievich, however you say that, was given the title of Ivan the Terrible. Now, how come this one guy out of all the ruthless rulers of Russia became Ivan the Terrible out of all those rulers? Well, let's find out. Now, during his time of rule, he made some big reforms, and he also expanded the territory of Russia. He also won many major victories in war. Then, why is he only known for being terrible? Well, let me give you some background on him. At the age of 8, he was orphaned because at the age of 3, his dad died. At the age of 5, his mom died. And this was quite not surprising because of how they used to treat medicine, where they would even rub feces on wounds. So that was not at all a good time where medicine was even a good thing. So that is one of the reasons why his mom mysteriously died, which actually no one has an idea on how she died. And also the nobility came to power, also known as the Borya group, and these nobilities had a lot of power, and they did not care for Ivan. And they treated him like a peasant. He had to beg for food, they mistreated him, they hit him, and he was not at all like a prince, he was more like a peasant in the royal court. Nobody cared about this. There were nobilities, they were rich, and they could do anything they want, and they could kill anyone they want. This was not at all supposed to happen, and this is not at all how a normal country is supposed to run. And surprisingly, when he was at rule, he actually stopped this. When he was a king, Russia prospered, like I told you, and he made some rules, and he even left Russia, saying that these nobilities, the Borya group, is making it impossible for me to rule as a ruler. And then that made the citizens make the Boreas apologize, so they did, and they made him come back. And then Ivan said that I'll only come back if you give me absolute monarchy power, and they did, and that turned out to be a mistake. And it starts his reign of terror. He also tried as much as possible to stop the Borya group from becoming any more powerful, and he also made it so that they would be actually accountable for people that they killed, and they couldn't just kill a commoner occasionally, and they were just as accountable as any other normal citizen. So this made the nobilities mad, but I guess it kinda added social reforms. And he also had a lot of crimes. After all, why wouldn't he? Got the title of Ivan the Terrible. Believing that prime ministers poisoned his wife. Just because of that, and we don't know if this is true, he abdicated them. He sent a letter to each and every single one, all of them gone. He built this group called the Oprichniki of specific people picked out of society just to protect him and kill all traitors that didn't go with the laws, and it failed, and they were disbanded a few years later, but it was the first known secret police to come to power. And he also killed his own son, his decency with his son's wife, and he mourned the death of his son, and I will tell you more about that in the bonus. And all the suffering he felt made him do so many crimes that he has committed. Now, let's see the judgment. And right on our left is a painting of him punishing his son's wife. Now, he had a good side. He made many reforms, he expanded territory, he led many victorious wars, he also brought stability to social hierarchy. Well, he kinda did bring stability to social of hierarchy, there were some mishaps. Like, I can tell you that he made it so that farmers could not go to more suited lands and they were stuck to their lands, and whoever owned the land would basically own the people. And this started the group of serfs, and this class of serfs were one of the most mistreated people on the planet. And this comes even into mostly of pre-modern Russia. It was a really bad side. Now, his bad side. He killed a lot of people and he did many bad things, including he also blamed others and then killed them because as he blamed them that they did something the citizens believed, and then he killed them in public, making it look like he's a good ruler and he's removing corruption. What that do? Well, his people trusted him more. Guess what happened? That's not exactly the truth. Anyways, he also hated traitors, and of course they were killed, and especially by the Opereshniki group that he made. So, the bonus. This painting looks really bad in the scene. Basically, this is when he hit his son's head with the scepter that he was holding over here, that you see that he was punishing his son's wife. Now, he didn't want his son to die, and he just started to try to stop him from bleeding, and guess it didn't work because he lingered for 3 days and then he died. He was a really mad and crazy man, and on the right is just him with all the Christian things and accessories of ruler. He went with Roman Orthodox, so Muscovy was known as the Third Rome. And of course, the second one is edited by me just for fun. So that was all for my topic.
That was nice watching. The bonus was very gruesome and yet very funny because those two pictures contradict each other. It was nice knowing like how all what he did, everything he did to his son, which is very not good. Yeah.
Virat, you should refresh the slides.
Why?
Because Vaughn wants you to.
He does? Yeah. It's frozen. I am trying. Okay. It's just lagging a lot. Now we have Pavan with Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler, one of the most known Russian rulers. So here we go. So a smooth transition would be to see how it transformed from a monarchy, the exact same thing that happened before with not such a stable social hierarchy and serfs and stuff like that, all the way to a modern industrial economy in Russia. So this newspaper is actually not a real newspaper, but it is something that I made up, which is related to a real newspaper, which I'll cover on what it is later. So the newspaper's name was Truth in Russian, Pravda. And the subtitles like All the Greatest News Brought to Home in Moscow and Soviet newspaper of the USSR. Those are, that's false, but that is one of the subtitles that I put. So March 8th, 1917. So in 3 days, it's going to be the 105th anniversary of the Russian Revolution. So it'd be great to talk about it. So the Russian Revolution took place in 1917 during the final phase of World War I. It removed Russia from the war and brought about transformation of the Russian Empire into the Union of the Soviet Socialist Republics, replacing Russia's traditional monarchy with the world's first communist state. I'll talk about what communism is now. So what? Communism is a form of government where everyone deserves the same thing. The government has all power and all the economic and social setting that they want. So they could do anything that they wanted, which meant that they kept everything exactly the same. So they did this by giving everyone a job no matter whatever they wanted, and everyone got the same income no matter how well they did in their job. And so before there were rulers where there were Tsars, but now there were dictators. The Tsars and Romanovs, which were nobility and royal families, they were executed after the revolution. After taking over, the Bolsheviks, or the Socialist Political Party, promised peace, land, and bread to the Russian people. There was constant war and fighting in Russia, and many people did not get their own land, and there was lots of famine. That's why they talked about peace, land, and bread. Next slide. So, Joseph Stalin will get his own timeline on a separate site because Adolf Hitler had a much more big history than Stalin himself. But Stalin did kill thousands of people. I'll put in the death toll later on the previous slide. So in 1889, Hitler was born, and in 1878, Stalin was born. Okay, so now Hitler. So fish, no, Hitler does not have a nose ring. He just has a very silly mustache. In 1907, Hitler tries to get into the Academy of Art, and his application was rejected by the Academy because he didn't do well. So in 1909 to 1913, Hitler struggled in Vienna. He had no money, and so he had to survive based off of anything he could try. He usually sold postcards, and he liked the job very much. So he later engaged in political activity, attended meetings, and read political literature. And this expanded his knowledge on governance, policies, and political parties. In 1913, Hitler drafted to World War I. In 1918, 4 years in the war, he was blinded by British gas. In 1919, Hitler acts as army informer, and he was unable to fight on the front lines. In 1920, Hitler trained for politics and propaganda. So building background on Hitler, 1920 to 1940. So in 1923, he joined the German Workers' Party, which he renamed later to the Nazi. So he began taking control in 1920, and he led a march to the Munich Beer Hall to take over a meeting led by officials to overtake the government. And so he was tried for treason and put in a prison for 9 months. In 1925, he was out of the prison for doing the march and trying to overtake the officials. He refounds the Nazi Party. He oh my God, excuse me. He refounds the German Workers' party, and the Nazi Party is back up and running. In 1930, the Nazi Party goes from 14 representatives to 107. Now it became the second largest political party. In 1932, Hitler becomes a German citizen, which allows him to stand in the presidential election against Hindenburg. He became the first person to electioneer by aircraft. The campaign was led by aircraft. They did some special air shows. This was masterminded by Joseph Goebbels, and the campaign was entitled Hitler over Germany. In January 1933, Hitler became the chancellor of the coalition government, where the Nazis had a third of the seat in the Reichstag. The Reichstag is basically like the parliament, government, or Congress of Nazi Germany at the time. But it wasn't Nazi Germany, it was just Germany. So in February 1933, the German Reichstag is destroyed by fire. The plot and execution is almost certainly due to the Nazis, but they point their finger at the communists. And they trigger a general election, which allows them to revote the political parties. In March 1933, Adolf Hitler addresses the Reichstag on 23rd March, seeking assent on the Enabling Act. The Enabling Act passed, and powers of legislation passed to Hitler for 4 years, which made him a virtual dictator. He proclaims that the Nazi Party is the only party permitted in Germany. All other parties and trade unions are disbanded. Individual German states lose any autonomous powers, while Nazi officials become state governors. So then he began a campaign on banning pretty much everything that would have led political opposition. In April 1933, communist parties were banned. In May 1933, socialist trade unions and strikes were banned. Strikes is a form of protest led by workers who refuse to work. In June 1934, Night of the Long Knives, Hitler crushes all opposition within his own party, which eliminated all of his rivals. In October 1933, Hitler withdraws from the League of Nations. In the following months, he trebles the size of the German army and ignores the arms restrictions imposed by the Treaty of Versailles. The Treaty of Versailles was a treaty made in World War I because of Germany's invasion on other countries nearby, especially Poland. After the death of the President Hindenburg at the time, his political opposition was died down again. So he becomes Vorherr and Chancellor. Vorherr means leader or ruler in German. He abolishes the title of president, meaning nobody can be president. They can only be ruler or Reichschancellor. He rearms Germany with the aim of undoing the Treaty of Versailles and uniting all the German peoples. No matter if you were a German in Poland or Czechoslovakia, you'd return to the German mainland. Military conscription is introduced. In March 1938, the Austrian Chancellor, leader of the Austrian Nazi Party, invites the German army to occupy Austria and proclaim a union with Germany. This is why he withdrew from the League of Unions, so that he could eventually ignore other treaties imposed by the League of Nations and to ignore other things that would have kind of dialed on his power in Europe. In September 1938, the British Prime Minister, Neville Chamberlain, meets Hitler in Germany, Britain. Britain, France, Italy signed the Munich Agreement, which gives the Sudetenland, the German-populated borderlands of Czechoslovakia, to Germany. Chamberlain, Dalliter, Hitler, Mussolini, and Ciano are in the picture below, with Hitler in the middle. Hitler is also seen in the Reichstag on the other photo with the Nazi symbol. The Nazi symbol looks very similar to the swastika of India, and this was so because it meant well-being and goodness in India, and he decided that that was the point of the Nazi party. And what he did was kill thousands of people to achieve what he thought was goodness and well-being for the Russians. No, not Russians, Germans. So in November 1938, historically referred to as the Crystal Night, 7,500 Jewish shops are destroyed, 400 synagogues are burnt, and the attack is portrayed as a spontaneous reaction to the death of a German diplomat by a Jewish refugee in Paris. It is actually orchestrated by the Nazi Party, who also kill many Jews and send 20,000 to concentration camps. I'll talk a little bit on why he hated Jews so much, a little bit to the story of next slide. In 1939, peace treaty with Russia secured the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Hitler invaded Poland on September 1st, and after 3 weeks of lightning war or blitzkrieg, which was a strategy he used to take down Belgium, France, and Poland, he took over countries in World War I and II. But World War I wasn't under his rule, it was under another ruler. I don't remember the dictator of previous Germany before Adolf Hitler. Britain, Australia, New Zealand all declared war on Germany in 1939. In 1940, the Nazis occupied Denmark, Norway, Holland, Belgium, and France. Romania and Yugoslavia are also invaded. Next slide. So these are some pictures of what was going on at the time. So the top with the very blurry and pixelated letters in Russian is Pravda. It says it in German. I mean, Russian, you can't really read it. And it was a newspaper that Joseph Stalin edited. And so you can see the Soviet Union map on one side. You can see that the Soviet Union at the time was very large, and Russia was the main state, which was extremely large. So now you can see on the other side a map of red, which includes all German states. These were controlled by Nazi parties who had invaded in those countries. Parts of Italy, France, Norway, Romania, and Greece were all taken, and Crimea and Ukraine, which are now the point of focus, were also taken over by Germany. You can see on another part of the slide that there's a tank with a red cross. That's another symbol of the Nazi Party. Next slide. So now, I forgot to talk about why he hated Jews so much. He hated Jews because he thought of the Aryan race. The Aryan race was, in his ideology, the perfect race which was perfectly German, no disturbances. He killed anyone who was Jewish, disabled, or homosexual. So in June 1941, Germany attacks Russia, ignoring the peace pact. The Operation Barbarossa, the German invasion of Russia, begins. You can see an image of Field Marshal Walter von Brostich and Hitler studying maps during Operation Barbarossa on the bottom. December 1941, Japanese Air Force attacks Pearl Harbor and war declared on the US. In February 1943, although commanded by Hitler to stand and fight, the Germans surrender in the Battle of Stalingrad, which was during Operation Barbarossa to take over Russia. And Stalingrad was the city that Stalin renamed under his influence. July 1944, Hitler survived an assassination attempt by Colonel Stauffenberg, who placed a bomb under his briefcase under a table close to Hitler. As a result, Hitler purges the army of all possible suspects. January 1945, Soviet troops enter Nazi Germany. Hitler decided to stay in Berlin to his last moment. On 26th April 1945, Berlin is completely besieged by the Soviet army fronts of Marshal Konev and Zhukov. Hitler's death. The famous little ruler in 30th April 1945. Hitler committed suicide with his wife of 2 days, within 2 days, and Eva Braun. Their bodies are believed to be cremated or to be burnt into ashes. And that is a journey of a little mustache ruler and communist ruler. But Joseph Stalin, he has his own timeline, but it's getting pretty long already. I will post a link on Zoom and probably somewhere else too. So now, Joseph Stalin had 26.6 million deaths under his name, mostly of his own Russians. Adolf Hitler had 7.1 million deaths, even though he was more famous than Stalin. I researched and tallied numbers to a total death count of 93 million people. This was through World War II, the Holocaust, people who died in gulags and stuff. The gulags were death camps and work camps in Russia, and you can see a picture of it in the corner with people near a river, or at least what seems to be a river. They seem to be carrying something, or at least using tools to dig. Yeah, that was it. Oh wait, no, never mind. Just do my best. This was another representation of the Pravda newspaper. Next slide. This is the translation. So it talks about what Joseph Stalin is best known for. I can cover this because I don't have enough time for the timeline. So Truth, the Soviet newspaper of the USSR, March 5th, 2022. What is Joseph Stalin best known for? Joseph Stalin, 1878 to 1753, was the dictator of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics from 1929 to 1953. Under Stalin, the Soviet Union transformed from a peasant society into an industrial and military superpower. The Russian Revolution was a period of political and Soviet revolution that took place in the former Russian Empire, which began during the First World War. During this period, Russia abolished its monarchy, which czars ruled, and adopted a socialist form of government after 2 successive revolutions and a bloody civil war. So now we have the Q&A, and if you're on LinkedIn or YouTube or even Facebook, then make sure to join in on the Zoom meeting if you have any questions or you just want to talk. And if not, then that's all right. And looks like we already have one attendee. Hello, Nandita Reddy. Do you have any questions? It's Tanishka. Oh, okay. I don't see that. Okay. Oh, hello, Tanishka.
It's in the chat.
Let me know. You can take on.
Hello.
So we can do the Q&A now?
Yeah. Anyone have any questions? Yeah. Who do you think was the worst ruler of these?
Oh, we know Mayo was definitely the
It's
The-
Mao.
Mao. Sorry. Just can't help
Okay,
it.
Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong.
You said Mayo so many times.
I know.
Mao Zedong.
Mao
Mayo
Zedong.
Zedong.
Yeah, Mao Zedong.
What's that picture in the back? Skulls?
Anyways, I think the worst ruler would actually be Joseph Stalin, since he got 23 million kills. I don't
Not
think
23.
I don't think like
6.6.
the
The way
worst.
you say it, 23 million
But-
kills. Sounds like a PvP video game.
But worse is like, was he morally wrong or did he just kill that many people? Like,
Was he like?
bro,
Did he believe something that other people didn't believe? And
yeah.
like,
That
what
allowed him to kill.
believe
Was
what
his
killed him?
ideology like morally flawed? Like Adolf Hitler did not
Yeah,
just
because
kill those people. He killed
Caligula
them
did.
because they were like
kill-
not Aryan.
yeah.
Caligula
yeah.
killed all the people for his own entertainment. So,
Yeah, entertainment is not a good reason. So I
And
think
then we have
it's the
like,
worst.
if he believed something and then killed them, like that's still bad because he killed a lot of
That's
people.
bad, but at least they have reasoning.
Yeah, they have a
Or they're
reason,
killing.
but the guy just killed everyone for his own entertainment.
Yeah, so Caligula has to be the worst.
Yeah, he'd be the worst in his mindset. And when it comes to death,
Are you not sure?
yeah, please no.
Um,
Yeah, when it comes to death, it's still Joseph Stalin. When it comes to
Yeah.
worst and morally
worst mindset.
mindset, yeah, that'd be Caligula.
Mentally flawed.
Mentally.
Not mentally.
who has the most
moral.
emotional damage?
The guy who needs the most therapy.
I guess that's
Well, we can't change history now.
Unless
Or we could. We
Like you have the
can
Infinity
change
Ring.
history.
now we have a second.
No, we can't.
Who was the?
gonna be a
You're
long
muted.
time before you man you get to say.
We have a second question. Who is the best ruler?
As in best or
Okay,
Mao
so
Zedong.
clearly there's lots of definitions for best here.
as
Yeah.
in best murderer or
No.
No.
Best in
Yeah.
like benefits.
For benefits. I
I
think
feel like
Well-
Garatz was the best because he actually like told us what he really
yeah, he
Correct.
did help actually.
he did. Yeah. Ivan the
Hitler helped.
create
He also-
reforms. So
He also did reduce the power of the nobilities. And power of nobilities, when it comes to history of many civilizations, power does go mostly to the nobilities, and it's really
Yeah.
bad. And it causes a lot of
I
corruption.
feel like
other
Mao
words, power
Zedong
goes
gets
to the
similar
head.
credit because he did also like put reforms and help the peasants.
yeah.
Yeah.
But he
then
did
this
kill a
is-
lot of people.
Wait, Mao Zedong?
Yeah.
Oh no, not Mao Zedong. I thought you were talking about
Oh yeah, Ivan the Terrible also killed.
Caligula guy.
He did kill, but he
They
didn't.
kill, like all the rulers, they killed.
Yeah, they did, but Ivan the Terrible didn't kill that many people. He just did a lot of bad things.
Yeah, he didn't like it's not like
He killed his
if you're
own
talking
son.
about infamous, it doesn't mean how many people you've shot with a gun. Or
It means how many people you
Yeah,
did.
it means how many people did you like
yeah.
help
How-
on like making their life suffering and then eventually
Miserable.
making them die.
I
It's
guess he might have
Caligula made people like watch their own families die.
Although yeah, that
Here's
guy.
my-
Okay, that is just brutal.
That guy
It's like
gets
how
Like that's kind of messed up. That's really messed up.
it's really how you describe evil. How you describe what the worst person is.
Yeah.
one. Huh? One relation is when basically since Ivan the Terrible made the serf class, there were rulers ahead of him, like Joseph Stalin, who wanted to who said that they would make the serf class better, but made it worse. So I don't know if he exactly had.
No. Joseph Stalin did not make the serf class worse. Joseph Stalin did not make the serf class worse. He removed the serf class. He turned them all into the worker and industrial economy and not a peasant society.
Caligula was planning on taking over Britain before he died.
What?
Britain?
Yeah.
Wait, when was Caligula's time period?
Luckily, Boris
37 to
Johnson wouldn't let
41
that
AD.
happen.
37 to 41 AD.
Luckily, Boris Johnson won't let that happen, right?
Boris Johnson.
Yes, yes, Boris Johnson. Do it, Boris Johnson. Don't allow Caligula.
Okay, another question that I have is, well, we're talking about infamous ruler. Would you count Putin as an infamous ruler or
No.
Wait, what? Count who?
Putin?
That guy, maybe. But that depends.
He's not exactly a dictator, and he's not exactly a ruler either.
But then again,
He's a
If-
president,
how
and
about
he's
that?
not that evil.
Well, he's making all the Ukrainians suffer.
Yeah, but
That's
the Ukrainian
honestly-
leader won't like take part of NATO, so that's
Yeah.
the
you
people in NATO
consider-
want the Ukraine to like join NATO, and
You can like see it in both ways,
yeah.
I guess.
I saw a bunch of memes online about the war. It's not really funny, but like the COVID-19 restriction one, that was really funny.
Yeah.
COVID-19
Really?
restrictions are just like trigonometry, okay? You gotta
Post-
agree with me.
the war.
Okay,
Yeah.
so clearly, like, Putin did make it like pretty hard for Ukraine, and he actually did start a war even before this in 2014.
Guys,
Yeah, because he annexed Crimea.
Yeah,
guys, just gonna say, if you consider that bad, practically every country's bad.
That is true. That is actually very true. George Washington, is he bad? Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, it
Describe
depends
bad.
on whose side you're.
Yeah.
describe bad
What?
as infamous. Practically every country is.
George Washington wasn't exactly bad.
But then again, when it comes to famous with animals, that would be George Washington.
What?
What?
You know, that guy was a killer.
did you just call George Washington an animal?
Killer.
Uh,
He was a hunter, right? Or was that Theodore
It's-
Roosevelt?
it's more like how you describe bad. Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was kind of bad because he did own slaves, even though he supported a little bit on abolishing slaves in the independence thing. I don't remember what it's called.
Honestly, though, none of us have actually brought up an infamous American.
Okay. Apart from that, Tanishka, do you have a question? Any question?
Any questions?
What?
No.
Yes,
Yeah.
Godzilla.
Said anything?
I don't think anyone else has questions.
Okay, then we can stop the recording, and the panelists can maybe discuss the topic for the next webinar. So,
Thanks.
John Auntie?
no, you can stop it. You're the host.
Stop it.
Yeah, no.
Whoever's the host can stop
Calling
it.
this-
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
Going to stop it now.
what? Oh,
Going to
Oh.
So stop the live streaming. Stop the
yeah,
live.
in a bit. Wait.
Yeah, I can see everything that's happening right now. Live stream.
Lemuel,
How do you
there's a
disable?
tiny version of you on my screen and a big version of you.
Yeah. Wait,
Oh,
Baban,
wait, never mind. Wrong thing.
Baban, you're the.
What
You
is
have to just click on it. You're gonna have to just click on it.
Say, guys, do you want to do a creative topic?
I can't end the live stream.
We're
No,
gonna-
you see the
I
live?
don't think live stream's a problem.
Wait, Wish. I'm trying to end the live stream.
Okay.
Click on live on custom live streaming service and see if you can press stop.
No, it just says view stream on.
Yeah, that's what I had.
And copy streaming link.
No, not for me.
Guys, spam messages to the host.
Don't do that. It's not nice.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna have to stop the live stream from YouTube. That's the only way we can do it.
But none of us have the YouTube account.
Wait, what if we just all leave? We can just on Tuesday.
Well, I don't have recording, so that doesn't matter.
Joan Auntie?
She's not there. It's weird.
AFK.
You could say that.
You could say that, but
Okay,
then we'll all meet on Tuesday to discuss on the topic, and if anybody that's all, okay? Bye.
it's nice having you.
Bye. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Honestly, I think we should do some sort of. Oh, okay.